I'll be 59 this year, and it is slapping me hard in the face for the past couple of years to realize that my body is just not building mass the way it used to. So we're going to discuss that and ways that you can overcome it and just how to deal with it. In this video, I'm going to go over why it is difficult to gain a massive amount of muscle once you are over 40 and especially when you're over 50. You can still gain muscle, but you're going to have a really seriously hard time gaining a massive amount of muscle unless you're one of those genetic outliers. I'm going to go over 5 reasons why that happens, but I'm going to give you information on how you can help overcome those to at least be the best that you can be. The first one is called anabolic resistance. And what is that? Anabolic resistance is described as the reduced stimulation of muscle protein synthesis to a given amount of protein or amino acids. Here is an example. Let's say I give someone who's in their 20s and I tell them to eat 25 grams of protein in every meal. So for someone who is 40 and above, I would probably have to give them 35 to 40 grams of protein for their body to get that same amount of muscle protein synthesis. Because with aging and a number of other factors, your body just can't synthesize the protein as well as you did when you were younger. So what really brings on anabolic resistance? First of all, it's exacerbated by just getting older. So there are some other factors that contribute to it as well. Insulin resistance. So if you've got a lot of weight on your body and you have a high insulin resistance level, that's going to cause the problem to be even worse. If you have a lot of weight on your body, then you've got a lot of, it's called systemic inflammation. As you get older, your body just cannot produce the satellite cells that it used to produce, and decreased in capillary density. So I'm going to go over some ways that you can overcome those obstacles with anabolic resistance. So let's talk about some ways we can overcome anabolic resistance. Number one, be active. With your exercise, that is going to increase your capillary density. Number two, keep the weight off to keep those insulin levels down and to help with systemic inflammation. By eating healthy and having a healthy body, you will help overcome this part of the aging process. The only way that you can really increase the satellite cells is to take human growth. That is an expensive therapy. There are ways that you can increase your IGF-1, which will in turn increase the amount of growth hormone. And the main thing that growth hormone does is within the individual muscle cell, there are multiple nuclei. And these additional nuclei become what they call satellite cells. They break off and they become new muscle fiber. So that's one thing that growth hormone does well. But growth hormone will not give you massive amounts of muscle. It gives you the potential for a lot more muscle fiber. So I want to make sure that that is clear. And most important of all, make sure that you have a high protein diet that has all the essential amino acids. The next obstacle is the problems with your connective tissue. Now, I'm not talking solely about your tendons and your ligaments. What I'm referring to is the fat and fascia and cartilage, like the fascia that surrounds the individual muscles and muscle fibers. And as you get older, these begin to break down. So without that supporting tissue, your muscles just can't perform the way they did when you were 20. So what causes these connective tissues to break down? So one of the reasons is advanced glycation end products. What is that? Good question. So advanced glycation end products form when you have a protein or a lipid, meaning a fat, and they are put together with aldose sugars, and I promise I'm going to explain what this is, for an extended period of time. And when they subsequently interact and the proteins and lipids undergo changes in their very molecular structure that causes, distinct variations and malformations, and these weakened or damaged proteins and lipids show up in your cell walls. So what that does is it weakens the cellular structure of these connective tissues, and they begin to break down. It's like adding old, worn out bricks to a brand new brick house. That's a good example. So let's go back a little bit. And what does interact with aldose sugars mean? First of all, a aldose sugar is a simple sugar, like a monosaccharide, glucose, for example. Now, these have a carbon atom backbone, and the very last carbon atom has a carbonyl atom at the very end, and that's just a variation of a monosaccharide. All right, so what does the interact mean? Well, that is non-enzymatic browning. It is a chemical process that creates that brown color that you see in the pan. The two main forms of non-enzymatic browning are caramelization and the Maillard reaction. Now, the Maillard reaction, that's a French word, is a chemical reaction between amino acids and reducing sugars that gives brown food its distinctive flavor. Seared steaks, fried dumplings, cookies, and other kinds of biscuits, breads, and toasted marshmallows, and many other foods that undergo this type of reaction. If you're learning something, make sure you hit that like button and please subscribe. What do advanced glycation end products do to your body? Well, modern diets are largely heat processed and as a result contain high levels of advanced glycation end products. Now, dietary advanced glycation end products are known to contribute to increased oxidant stress and inflammation. Now that we know what it is, what do we do about it? Number one, avoid charred, burnt meats and burnt things in pans, fried eggs. And I know all the grill masters out there are going to hate hearing, don't eat charred food. Fried eggs, burnt toast. All these things contribute to systemic inflammation and will lead to connective tissue issues. So the next thing that we need to talk about is oxidation and free radicals. So the other day I saw this video from Dave Palumbo, and he said it so well that I couldn't do it any better. So here is Dave Palumbo on free radicals.
And what's free radicals? Well, free radicals are produced whenever the body oxidizes fats in the body. So whenever we are oxidizing fatty acids, which occurs all over the body, right? Brain, muscles, liver, everywhere. These rogue electrons known as free radicals are released. I always tell people to think about them as like little bullets that kind of shoot all over the body and randomly damage tissues. And we don't want these things doing that because we don't want to damage our tissues in our body for no apparent reason, because these electrons are so small they can actually pierce the DNA of our cells and actually damage the replication mechanisms in the cell. So we don't want that to happen. So the body has these natural antioxidant systems. We take sometimes additional free radical, quelchers or antioxidants, as we call them, from fruits, vegetables, vitamin C, vitamin E, but nothing is as powerful as the body's natural antioxidant glutathione, and that's why it's utilized in the body. Problem is, as we get older, we produce less and less glutathione, which leaves us much more vulnerable to these free radicals and to oxidative damage and to inflammatory issues in the body. And that's why, young kids don't get arthritis, they don't have damaged blood vessel walls, they don't get dementia, because their bodies are really, really good at neutralizing these free radicals because they have a lot of glutathione production in their body. But like I said, as we get older, I always tell everyone after 25, it's all downhill. You just don't realize it until you're in your 40s, and then by the 50s, you're already falling apart. But that's a lot of this falling apart stuff is due to the fact that these free radicals are basically running rampant all over our bodies, and
In chemistry, a free radical is an atom, molecule, or ion that has at least one unpaired valence electron. So just to be clear, free radicals are derived either from normal essential metabolic processes in the human body or from external sources such as exposure to X-rays, ozone, cigarette smoking, air pollution, and industrial chemicals. Antioxidants neutralize free radicals by giving up some of their own electrons. In making this sacrifice, they act as a natural off switch for the free radicals. This helps break the chain reaction that can affect other molecules in the cell and other cells in the body. There are lots of foods that are naturally high in antioxidants, and number one, dark chocolate, real dark chocolate, not the stuff from Hershey's. So blueberries, raspberries, pecans, artichokes, strawberries, all these foods are very naturally high in antioxidants. And like Dave Palumbo was saying, glutathione really can help. I personally used glutathione myself. So what's the takeaway? We're here because you want to build as much muscle as possible. And to do that, every little bit helps. So eating foods that are high in antioxidants, taking products like glutathione, taking vitamin C, and staying away from advanced glycation end products, these are all part of the small things that you do to get as much muscle mass on your frame as possible. Number 3 is testosterone. After you hit the age of 30, your testosterone level drops 1 to 2% every year. So if you're already in your 50s, do the math. So when you get your blood work done and you have your testosterone levels checked, you're getting your amount of testosterone and free testosterone. So your testosterone level is normally between like 300 to 1,000, and they want you to be at what's called midpoint of normal, which is around 500. Now, if you are younger, that might be just fine to build muscle. But as you get older, you really probably need to have that number around 700, 800, 900. The next thing to consider is the amount of free testosterone. So let's say you have a 600 for your testosterone and you have 100 for your free testosterone. The free testosterone is the unbound testosterone, and that's what your body's using to build muscle per se. So if that number is really low, then yeah, you have a problem. You need to talk to your doctor about it. The next hormone to consider is growth hormone. If you get quality sleep on a consistent basis, your body will produce more growth hormone. But if your growth hormone levels are low, I have to tell you that the therapies for injectable growth hormone are really expensive. So there are precursors to human growth called IGF-1, and there are ways that you can get this IGF-1 stimulated, which helps then move on to growth hormone, which increases the satellite cells, which we talked about earlier. So where does this leave you if you find that your testosterone levels are low and your growth hormone levels are low? Then you need to talk to a doctor, find a place like Titan Medical, and there's a number of other ones that you can talk to, and they can offer you protocols that you can use to help with these things. And there is no shame in getting testosterone replacement therapy. Number 4, reduced anabolic signaling. What in the world is that? Well, let's take a look. Our bodies use anabolic signaling mechanisms to communicate to our muscles that they need to grow. A lot of research looks at how diet and exercise affects this communication. Now, the body contains many anabolic mechanisms, and they are all connected to each other, kind of like how a car consists of many parts that rely on each other to function. Aging is associated with a gradual decline in skeletal muscle mass and strength, leading to increased risk for functional impairments. Although basal rates of protein synthesis and the degradation are largely unaffected with age, the sensitivity of the older muscle cells to the anabolic actions of essential amino acids appears to decline. And the major pathway through which essential amino acids induce anabolic responses involves the mammalian target of rapamycin, or mTOR. which is a signaling pathway that is especially sensitive to the regulation by the branched chain amino acid leucine. Evidence suggests that muscles of older individuals require increasing concentrations of leucine to maintain robust anabolic responses through the mTOR pathway. While the exact mechanisms for the age-related alterations in nutritional signaling through the mTOR pathway remain elusive, there is increasing evidence that the decreased sensitivity to insulin action, reductions in endothelial function, and increased oxidative stress may be the underlying factors in this decrease in anabolic sensitivity. So what does all this mean? It's simply put, when you were younger, you didn't have all this oxidative stress and systemic inflammation. And as we age, the signaling process to signal muscle protein synthesis just doesn't occur as much as it does when you are younger. The fifth thing is you need more recovery time. Once you hit your 40s, your body's just not responding the way it did when you were in your 20s and 30s. So I suggest you move to something like a 4-day split. I work out 2 days, I have a rest day, I work out 2 days, and I take 2 days off. My last day is leg day, and after leg day, I am destroyed for the next couple days. So by the time 2 days is over and I'm ready to start again, I'm excited about being back in the gym. So you really just can't recover and grow if you're trying to work out 5-6 days a week. So seriously think about how you are arranging your split and making sure your body is getting enough time to recover. Now here's something else to consider when it comes to recovery, and that is how you are working out. What is your style? So, if the typical hypertrophy is you're doing like 8 to 12 reps and you're going hard. Now, you can do workouts that are high reps. You're doing like 25, 30, 35 reps with lighter weights. And you might need to do that because of the way your joints are. And that can be successful, but you have to get to true failure at the end of these sets. So there's been a lot of research behind that. You can get almost as good results doing high reps to failure. So once again, that is something to think about. So to summarize, you need to increase the amount of protein in your diet. You need to watch what you eat more carefully so that you can avoid these connective tissue issues. You need to monitor your hormone levels very closely, and you might have to increase the amount of testosterone you're using or get onto testosterone replacement. You are just going to have to face the fact that as you get older, your body just does not have the receptors that it used to build a lot of muscle, and that you are going to have to really think hard about your lifting and what style are you going to use to give your body enough recovery time. And with all that being said, you can still be the best that you can ever be consistently. You just have to work smarter, to work harder to maintain those results.